How's it going, guys? Coffee here. Today I wanted to go over the updated Gemma 2 Frost Terra build. For the changes from the Gemma 2 mid build, we are now using a cast on crit setup. There are a few changes from the last build. The biggest thing is we are now using a staff. In order to use Savage Charge, you do need to use a staff. So for that, I am using this staff here that I bought and crafted on stream. For the staff, basically what you want to look for, you want to look for a base with this T0 to spells mod here. And then you want to look for it with a T1 version of this additional damage to frozen enemies. It doesn't need to be a black feather staff because you're most likely going to dreamcraft it. And when you go and price search these, you'll see them. They're about under 100 FE for the most part. What you're looking for, preferably, is a staff that has no other prefixes other than the +5 to spells or +6 to spells. If you want to go for the cheaper gamble option, you can get one that has one other prefix. But when you basically are buying one of these staves, you're going to push it to T0 on the frozen mod and hoping to get rid of the other prefix. So that you can craft the % additional spell damage as well as spell damage on the staff itself. So if you can search, you want to find one with no prefixes. If you can, you should be able to hopefully find one for about 100 FE still or less. But you might need to look around. It really depends on how much these are being bought up basically after this video goes out. If not, just buy one again with one prefix, one suffix, and gamble. If you miss the prefix, it's not that big of a deal. Again, just craft your % additional damage, and then for your suffix, you're going to craft the curse effect on there, and if you still have another empty suffix, then you're just going to craft skill radius. Other than that, we have upgraded. We are no longer using the corrupted marrow helmet. We end up moving over to a Long Night Sorcerer's Mask. You want to buy this if you have money. Basically, you want to buy this with +1 max Terra charge stacks and with tier 1 Affliction Effect. And then you buy that, and then you basically craft it up to either get, again, this Gear ES or Aura Effect, whichever, your choice. Preferably both, basically, and you're just trying to get high ES on this. Other than that, everything else pretty much stays the same for this version of the build. So this version, you are going to be hitting 500 billion DPS, but the defenses are not going to be the best thing ever. Like, they're more than tolerable to get you through, like 8-2, 8-3, things like that. You might have a little bit of struggles in 8-4 because the mapping setup is a little bit lower damage, so you are running more closer to around like 100 billion DPS in mapping mode with explosions. Which is why it's a little more comfortable to just float around in 8-2 for me personally right now. You do have some switches that you make between bossing and mapping if you care to do it. Like, so let's go ahead and showcase those here now. For your mapping setup, what you would end up running is, instead of this frigid domain, you would end up running this ice imbue instead. And then you end up basically swapping your candles over to a Soul Eater candle. But let's go over the actual skills that we have right now. So we are using Savage Charge with Reaping Agony, Guard, and Hardened. And then we are still using Force Start with Defense Layers, Extended Duration, and Cooldown Reduction. You are using a Mana Boil with Mass Effect, Mania, and Well Fought Battle. And then we do have a Star Stalker with Rhythm, Mania, Extended Duration, and Cooldown Reduction. This Rhythm is very important on this because otherwise it will interrupt your Savage Charge when you go to hit this button. So you do need to have this on Rhythm. Then you basically you never hit the button, you just have to let it auto trigger. And then we do have Blurry Steps with Mania and Cooldown Reduction. If you are willing to lower or have like a lower or a bigger cooldown on Forced Restart, or less duration on Forced Restart, you can run an extended duration here on Blurry Steps as well, just for a little bit more movement speed. But that comes down to personal preference. For your auras here, you are running Elemental Amplification, Deep Pain, Magical Source, Frigid Domain, and Restrain. Again, for mapping, we do swap this out over to a Precise Ice Imbue for the explosions. That just helps with clear, and you don't really need the extra damage from Frigid. And then we are running a Triggered while channeling for Entangled Pain. And then we have a seal conversion here on Energy Fortress and Precise Elemental Resistance. This can just be normal elemental resistance as well, that's fine. You do want to be running Triggered while channeling for Entangled Pain because this doesn't have any penalty to the curse, versus if you are running Curse on hit, you are going to have less curse effect. So this way you're getting the full curse effect out of Entangled Pain. And then again, finally for your Frost Terra, you are running it with Control Spell, Freeze Chance, Ground Divide, and Cataclysm. And then for your candles, for bossing, you'll just run with 1+2 Cold Candle and 1 +1 Max Terra. For your mapping, you will swap out the +2 Cold for a Soul Eater Candle as recommended. This like damage, skill area, and move speed. And then let's go ahead and showcase, I guess I'll show you the damage here. So you do still swap out your hero traits here from Frigid Infusion over to Frost Tides and off of Bone Piercing Frost into Blooming Frost Flower for mapping. If you do have the legendary memory, that does give you Blooming Frost Flower constantly, then you never have to make that swap. But for those of us that don't have 2,000 FE to spend, you go ahead and do that. For your memories, you are still just using these Frostbite rating and Freeze Effect. And then for mapping, I still use Escaping the Magic Ice just for quality of life, because you'll randomly get one-tap by stuff, even with the slates that I'm using. So the slates that I'm actually using right now, for the Cast on Crit build, it is required that you do use a versatile slate. There's no way around this. This is going to be your highest DPS slate, and you need this just so you're actually critting constantly, or you always crit basically every time when Cast on Crit is off of cooldown, because it shares the same 0.6 second cooldown that you have with versatile here. So you use that, ensure you're always critting, and then it also gives you, your 36% additional spell damage. For the other slates that I'm using, I have the same Affliction Effect or Affliction and Cold skill level here, but I did end up swapping to a Persistent skill level with Blur on mana consumption. This basically means I always have Blur up. It's not always at 100%, but this is giving me a nice, extra defensive layer with Blur. And then my last slate is the same one I had before with this restores missing energy shield when suffering a severe injury. Other than that, I still have this one here with Reap on it, and +1. And then we have this one over here with a +1 persistent with some Affliction Effect on it. And I got lucky enough to get this +1 max energy charges as well. And then we have, again, this additional dot damage for things. But you're basically just aiming for +1 persistent with either Reap or Affliction. I believe you do end up actually wanting one slate, at least with Reap on it. I was testing different amounts of Reap sources, and this ended up working out, kind of having a Reap on gloves, and then the Reap on your boots and the Reap on the slates, because we don't have any other sources of Reap right now. If you do have other sources of Reap, and then one on belt as well. So if you have other sources of Reap, you might not need the slate, but just test yourself with the gear that you end up having, or the gear that you end up getting. In regards to the tree itself, the tree didn't change at all from the last time I posted this video. Everything's still exactly the same. The sealed mana, the +1 to skill level, and then we're just going all ES here. And then same thing, we have this. I probably don't need this anymore, to be honest. I'm just going to leave it though. We just have the same tree before. You're going for freeze duration and the frostbite inflicted. And then we just do have the extra skill radius here, as well as the extra cold damage. If you do want extra, survivability or some extra energy shield, again, you can drop the skill radius, but I wouldn't recommend it. It just feels really nice to have that over the extra damage. And then we are just still, again, running the same tree here with all of the extra Reap, and then the extra Affliction, as well as the extra sealed mana, and energy shield stuff, and the extra dot damage, things like that. For taking this build into 8-4 deep space, most likely, which is something I'll cover in the next build, you're probably going to end up needing to go over to Imperial Might. If you do end up in that setup, you will need to get Terra Charge recovery speed here, most likely, because you will be dropping this chest that locks it at 200%. You will most likely need to end up crafting it on your rings. So you can get it here on your rings, like 72% each. Something like that, I believe, on T0. So it's like 60% on your T1. Something like that. So you will most likely end up needing to get it there, as well as basically have it on your tree in order to basically get the same 200% that you're getting right now. So do keep that in mind. If you do end up going Imperial Might, you will have to focus on that. And then at that point, you will want to swap out Freeze Chance for Speed Up Formation as well. So let's go ahead and showcase the mapping damage on this, and then we'll go ahead and showcase this in a map. So you have the same setup, but again, for this one, we're going to be, again, closer to around 100 to 150 billion here, which is still more than enough for the mapping that you're doing. Again, you're just not getting that 500 billion that you were getting before. Map here, we'll go ahead and fully juice this. Oh, we gotta get a... I'm gonna not click the Statue of War because it's a little, doesn't showcase what it really looks like if I do click that. So for the sake of the video, I just won't click it here. But pretty much when you're mapping, you're only hitting blurry steps while you're running through here and looting. I mean, I guess you're hitting your defense layers as well, or your forced start every now and then as well. But other than that, you're just hitting blurry steps kind of every few seconds as it comes off cooldown. And your forced start here, but as you do see a bit of the explosions kind of popping off over here. Oh man, this map is not good for a showcase really, compared to like something like Demiman, but this is what we're gonna do because we're already in here. So one last thing that you can do that I'll go over after this is when you go into the options here, if you are using Savage Charge under Battle here on the last tab, you want to make sure you check this box for auto guide, and this basically turns your Savage Charge into a toggle. So here, basically, when I hit right click once, it's going to keep Savage Charge on the whole time. I don't need to go back and click it. It will just do it. You know, it's treating it as though I'm holding it down right now until I click it again. If you do click on certain like boxes or like menus, things like that, it will basically force you to click it again. But it's still a good quality of life to not have to hold down right click for hours and hours on end. For any of you that have done that before, you know that if you do that for like a 10-hour day, you will end up having quite a bit of pain. Oh, looks like I got procced here, but this is why we run the memory that we do. And then we got the boss here, and we'll go ahead and melt turbo fast. And let's go ahead and get this last malignant up here as well. Get our extra beads, and then we'll go ahead and move on. Yeah, so if you have any questions about the build, leave them in the comments down below, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. And I'll be finishing this up with a like final build on this, probably with Imperial Might, and pushing it to kind of like the more extreme budget. Imperial Might's like at least 1,000 FE, so we're not going to push into that yet, but I'll let you know when we get there. And yeah, leave any questions or comments down below, and I'll be more than happy to answer that. And other than that, see you in the next one.